Hello and welcome. We are Tools in the Shed, powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that's caught our eye this week. I'm James, and with me are Mal, who's counting the days until a certain rear-wheel drive sports car is finally uncovered, as well as Richard, who's been investigating Ford Australia's latest contender. And we'll check in with the world's most erratic entrepreneurial nerd with a bad case of tunnel vision in this week's MuskWatch. So stay with us. But to kick us off, Mal, it's rear-wheel drive. It's got everybody waiting with bated breath.
It's fast. It's a Toyota.
Yep.
It's the Supra.
Now,
And we still haven't seen it. We won't see it till Detroit in mid-January. And we've driven it in prototype, guys, in September. But last week, Tom White had the opportunity to see it in Australia, once again as a development mule. It's over here for final evaluation.
and sorry to stop you, Mal, but regular listeners and viewers will know that Tom is a member of our team.
Yes.
They may have listened to him on the podcast previously, so that's who Tom White is.
I was assuming that Tom White's famous, and it goes without saying.
You were indeed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you decide. So Tom sat down with Chief Engineer Tetsuya Tada and the Supra in Victoria last week. Still didn't get to see it properly, but anyway, we've got a fair idea what it looks like, and early signs are good. It's a lot smaller than you might think, great proportions, and I think it's going to look a lot better than a Z4.
I've often thought that, in terms of proportions, you look at a car in images, and if it looks bigger in the images than it actually is in reality, I think there's something about the car's proportions that are working well.
And that's especially true for Supra, because we've been watching this come so slowly over the years and years and years and years, and it's looked giant.
Yeah.
Even the concept looked huge.
Yeah.
The FT1 or whatever it was.
What's the length? Do we know?
Recently, we had the chance to drive that Aston Martin DB11 AMR, and in images, just the nose, that long nose and whatever, it looks like a substantial car. You get next to it, and it's small.
It's sort
really
of more
compact.
Toyota 86 size.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Oh, the Supra.
The wheelbase is actually shorter than the 86. 'cause
Yeah,
it's only
right.
a two-seater.
Yeah.
I think it's longer than an 86 and
Yeah.
wider than an 86.
Yeah.
But the wheelbase is shorter. Probably lengthen the nose. Certainly not the rear overhang.
Yep.
But anyway, the news from this week, or last week, is that Tetsuya Tada told Tom that there is still a chance we'll see a manual in the Supra.
Yeah.
And
Good. Yep.
it all comes down to whether we want it enough, which means it's going to happen.
Yep.
And he actually admitted that he's driven a pre-production prototype, which...
Tom.
No, Tada's son.
Bloody hell, that'd be an
The other
exclusive.
T. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Anyway.
I mean, the fact is, if it's going to be unveiled at the Detroit show, which is only a few weeks ago, if they're going to have a manual, they've already got it. In fact, they've had it for a couple of years. So he's letting a cat out of the bag, but they can't just whistle up a manual out of thin air.
I don't
The bag's
think they're gonna have
gone.
it
The
straight
cat's
up.
out.
Cat's out.
They're not going to have it straight up. I think they'll
Yeah.
keep it as something to sort of reinvigorate interest.
Sure.
Maybe
Okay.
a couple of years into its production schedule.
Yeah.
But it is particularly interesting, I think, because you can get a manual Z4, which has just launched in Europe with all of the underpinnings of the Supra. So, beauty.
Which is strange because European drivers, enthusiast drivers, you would have thought there'd be enough of them to, make a manual worthwhile.
Yeah. And you still see plenty of manual 5 series parked beside the street in Germany. Which
Yeah,
is
I mean, there were.
totally foreign to us.
I doubt there are now, but earlier generations, there were manual 7 Series. And you used to be able to buy manual S-Class Mercs as well. I mean, those days are long gone, but yeah.
Do we know what the ratio between BMW versions and Toyota versions will be?
Production,
question.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Good question.
I'm not sure. I dare say it's gonna skew heavily in favour of the BMW, given it's going to go all over the world, and that little convertible will be pretty popular in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's 12-1 like 86 to BRZ.
Yes.
We'll
The
have to
convertible,
learn
I
that
mean,
in
I'm
time.
thinking Florida, Miami,
Yeah.
probably LA.
For sure.
Might be a bit of Dallas in
Bondi.
there.
Double
Yeah.
Bay.
Yeah, locally.
Yeah, locally. Anyway, so the other thing we learnt is that so it's not getting a local suspension tune, but they say that Australia's conditions are key to succeeding with a properly global tune.
Okay.
In that, we demand great dynamics, but also we have pretty rough roads at times.
Sure.
So go us, once again.
But I suppose to use 86 as a proxy for it, because Tada, of course, was the father of 86 and he's now overseeing the development of the Supra, the suspension tune for the 86, no matter the lower base car or the upper one, the suspension tune was pretty much the same. So
Fantastic.
it'll be the same for Supra, I presume.
Yep.
There might be different kind of grade levels, but the suspension will remain the same.
And I have every confidence to do a great job. If 86 is anything to go by, I agree.
Yep.
The other thing Tom reminded me this morning is that Tetsuya Tada admitted that he'd driven the Z4 back-to-back with the Supra, but Tom asked which was better, and Tada apparently then had a lengthy conversation with his translator before the translator just said no.
No, and they all laughed, knowing that the pretense of all of that.
Well, that's
No
going to be
surprise.
an interesting question, isn't it? I mean, we can't really decide that now, but what are your feelings, Mel and James, about the BMW version and the Toyota version?
Well, there'll be a fundamental difference in that, the convertible Z4 versus a coupe Supra would, that's not apples
Rigidity.
with apples
Yep.
in some ways.
Yep.
Yeah, based on the positioning of the Supra as the big brother to 86, I expect the Supra to be more lively.
Yeah.
And, the convertible's got to appeal to a broader audience. So, anyway, but that's just theoretically.
Yeah.
They're
We'll
both
soon
something
find
to look
out.
forward to. They're both something to look forward to. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, the fact that Z4 is natively a convertible, it's a fair indication we're going to see Supra convertible too.
Yeah, that could
Absolutely.
be interesting
Because
too.
the door jams all appear to be the same, so all the hard points seem to be the same, so
Right.
Yeah.
it should be pretty simple.
And that'd
to-
be a first, wouldn't it? No previous Supra convertible.
I don't think from the factory, no.
No. All right. Well, that's another
Cool.
one.
Mm.
Cool. All right. Now, speaking of factories and car production and exciting, those three things go together and they add up to our sponsor.
Life's a journey, and for over a century, Winton's been helping Australians enjoy the ride. Behind the wheel of a Winton, you're comfortably in control of the most efficient, enjoyable, and brilliantly engineered car in the world. In fact, from class-leading luxury and performance cars to light trucks, heavy haulers, and agricultural equipment, all supported by our no-haggle, lifetime warranty and industry-leading service, Winton covers all the bases. Winton, Australian with a world of difference.
Righto. Now, it's time to let another cat out of the bag because viewers on YouTube will be looking at an image right now that is at the centre of a collaboration between our very own Richard Berry and Frosty Chops from Winton.
Yep.
Fill us in, Richard. What's the backstory?
Oh, look, if you're at home, you can probably see what's up on your screen. If you're listening in your car or you're lying in bed and you just got your eyes shut. What it is, it's a can of energy drink.
Now, this is a parental brand.
Oh yes,
On the maternal side,
that's right.
it's kind of a mother. It's
It's kind of a mother.
It's a variant of mother.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a variant of mother called Frosty Berry, and that was
Yeah.
a link up between myself and my family and the Winton Motor Company and Frosty. Look, you sent me a photo of it because you found it on a shelf in a supermarket.
Yeah.
And that had been recalled like a
Months
year
ago.
ago.
It was in prime spot too, right at eye level.
Yeah, that should not be.
You normally pay extra for that
Well,
location.
it'd be worth something because it shouldn't be on the shelves because it's dangerous.
All right.
It tastes terrible.
Is the berry too cold?
No, look, what we found, we had to recall it for certain reasons.
Well,
and
primary
then
constituent is Castrol R.
it was just the way it tasted. It wasn't when you say
Viscosity
dangerous.
was out of whack, was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it wasn't.
5W50.
It's not going to hurt you, but it just tasted terrible. Anyway, we had 150,000 pallets of it sitting at Essendon Airport in one of, I think, Mick Doohan's hangar. Mick
It was
and
in a
Frosty.
Hercules, wasn't it? It
Well,
was
that's
a
right.
former military
We were going to
Hercules.
take it to Iraq, actually, but Iraq didn't want it.
Because it's flammable. It's highly
yeah.
flammable.
That's right. We sold it to Burma, or Myanmar, as it's now called. They use it as kitchen cleaner.
Aung
there.
San Suu Kyi, I think, was used in the advertising campaign.
That's right.
Yeah.
She cracked one open. She said, "I'm the mother of the nation."
Is that
And
the solo man of Frosty Berry?
It is. It is.
Ah.
It is.
Cool.
All
So
right.
that's where it is. I'm surprised you
So
found it.
it's fallen apart. We'll talk more about what's in store for 2019
Mm.
towards the end of the show, so stay tuned. But now, Richard,
Yes.
you've got the mic. Hang on to it because we're talking about Ford's latest offering, their kind of continuing launch program What's on the cards here?
Yeah, look, Ford are rolling out the models. It might
There's
be
a song along those lines.
It certainly is. It might be the closing days of
Barrels.
2018, but Ford has just launched 2 new models. They launched a Focus, the new generation Focus, which attended, and on the same launch, we also met the new Ford Endura. Ford won't say it. They won't say it's a replacement for the Territory, but it's the same height. It's a bit wider and it's the same length. It's a pretty good replacement as well from having driven it. Towing capacity is 2,000 kilos, which is a bit less than I think the 2,300, 2,700 that I think it went up to for Territory, or 2,500. Look, it's only available as a diesel.
Now, so given those proportions and given the gap in their lineup that the Territory disappearance of Territory created, was the question asked in terms of, were you thinking about calling it Territory? And what was this called in other markets? It's the Edge, isn't it?
It's called the Edge in Europe, and it's called the Edge in the United States.
Yeah.
They were prevented from calling it the Edge in Australia for, I think, naming legal reasons. Is another.
I do believe Toyota has that name in
That's,
Australia.
that's right. And it's not a new car. It's new to us. We've never seen it before in this country, but it's been out in the United States. I think this is the third generation of it, and it's been out for 4 years or something like that.
And this one has just had its mid-cycle facelift.
That's right.
So we're getting it halfway through.
That's it. So 2018, we saw the update of this car at a motor show overseas, and we've got it. We've got the 2019 sort of revamped look.
So just to harp on, they changed it from Edge to Endura. Any thoughts of calling it Territory?
I remember going to a meeting with Ford about 12 months ago, and we asked the question, and they were pretty decisive. It was just no. I think there are other manufacturers who have applied traditional nameplates to
Holden and Commodore.
But Ford have taken a different approach, and they've just gone that Territory was an era. We're moving to the next era, and it's all about Ford have got a global strategy, one Ford strategy. I'm sure they would have loved to have called it the Edge as well, but they came with Endura. I actually think Endura is a better name than the Edge. Doesn't the Edge play?
He's a good guitarist.
He's a very good guitarist.
I think the Edge is a cinema in the Blue Mountains.
Great.
Anyway,
Is that one of those adult cinemas?
I was just going to say an ice cream as well, but that was Wedge, Choc Wedge. Adult cinemas? No.
Good. So sorry, Richard.
Anyway,
we got to the point where it's roughly the same proportions as the Territory.
Yep.
What are you talking kind of powertrain wise? What's
you can
going
only
on
get
there?
it as a turbo diesel at the moment. It's a 2-litre,
2-litre
four-cylinder,
turbo diesel.
140 kilowatts, 400 newton meters.
Is that Ranger and Everest related, that engine, or it's a different kind of engine?
Look, it's an EcoBoost.
Yep.
I don't know what the genealogy of it is.
I'd say it'd be
precisely.
related to the twin turbo
But it would
Ranger. But
have
it's only
to
a
be.
single turbo in the
That's right.
Endura, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah. Look, it feels grunty enough. There were moments where your left lane was ending and you were trying to get ahead of a semi-trailer, and with only 2 people in the car, it did feel like it needed a bit more grunt.
But you do play that death race game quite a lot.
I love
you
it.
love that
I
last
love
minute
the death
left
race,
lane
and I leave it way too late.
semi-trailer interface.
Yeah,
He's the star of many dash cam films.
Yeah, I'm also the
You're
same.
constantly reliving Duel, basically.
Totally. If a roller door's closing as well, I'm the person, whether I want to go in or out, that tries to roll underneath it.
You're either
MacGyver style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can I say, I do believe there's an elephant in the room. We're yet to discuss the key thing that Endura doesn't, that Territory did do.
A spa bath.
A spa bath?
Yeah.
No,
Territory didn't do that either.
not to my knowledge. Not the latter versions.
Are we talking seats?
We're talking
Yeah.
seats.
The Endura's a 5-seater. Territory, you could get that as a 7-seater. This is a massive issue. All its competitors have 7-seat options. You've got the Arcadia. It's bigger than the Endura, admittedly, but then you've got Santa Fe, which is smaller, and it's got 7 seats as well. Mazda CX-8, about 100 millimeters bigger. That's got 7 seats. The only 7-seater in Ford's range is the Everest, and that's a big off-roader.
And there's plenty of smaller options with 7 seats these
Yeah,
days too.
Allspace,
Yeah,
Volkswagen,
Tiguan.
Pathfinder for Yonks,
That's
Outlander,
right. That's right.
Kodiak.
God, X-Trail. You know what I mean? So it's an issue. We asked Ford about this again, and
What they say this week?
their answer was perfect.
Yeah.
they're selling accessory beach chairs. So you can buy 2 and it becomes
That's right.
7 seats.
That's right. Not that they saw the seatbelt; it just goes round to lap sash.
Yeah.
No, look,
Good response.
They said, and look, it was a good response, and I know it's PR, but they said, look, not everybody wants 7 seats, and it gives you more room in the cargo space.
Not
And-
everybody, but most large SUV buyers.
You know, but
Yeah,
look, you
that's
know,
a silk purse out of a sow's ear if ever I've heard one.
it might be. Yeah.
But I think the underlying truth is that only China makes a 7-seat Edge.
Yeah.
And Europe makes a 5-seat Edge.
Yes.
And we took the European one.
That's right.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of glad we didn't get the Chinese product.
So, Mal, what is the vehicle that is sold in China as territory? It's an SUV, isn't it?
Edge.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's Edge.
It's Edge,
All
yeah.
right, so that's
It's
a
the
7.
same, I think it's the same shape. It might
Okay.
be slightly longer at the rear,
Right.
but yeah, Europe wants a 5-seater, US wants a 5-seater, China wanted a 7-seater.
And we don't
Yes.
count enough.
I'm not sure
Australia
that the Chinese
doesn't
one
count.
was actually available to us, but
Yeah.
Right.
Can I just point out?
Yes.
Probably, it's the interior is quite a nice interior. I wasn't, when you can look at my Acadia review, I wasn't totally impressed with Acadia's quality of materials. The Endura is a step above that, and it has a rotary style gear shifter, a la Jaguar Land Rover.
A
Which used to be part of
community-based
Ford,
charitable
funnily enough.
organisation that's ready to put up, equipment at the local high
Not
school.
rotary like the
Oh, right.
That's that would be good. Imagine
That would be
changing
good.
gears there.
Well,
They make a good
the
sausage
logo
sandwich.
is perfect. It's just a little gear. Yeah.
No, it's just a little, and what it does is a little, just like Jaguar Land Rover, it's a little rotary dial with, PRD.
does it emerge from...
No, it doesn't pop up. It's already up.
It's the Ford
It
version.
stays up the whole time.
Right.
I like it up the whole time because, just thinking about those words, it's with the Jaguar Land Rover product, that's going to get stuck at some point, isn't it?
Sure.
Now,
And also, it's
possibly.
frustrating when you're
All
trying to do
things that move eventually stop
Yes,
moving.
You try and do a 3-point turn with those things, and it has that lovely, graceful kind of raising thing. You go, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah,
I need to
you're
make it
switching a lot
turn.
faster than
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can.
This stays up the whole time.
Okay,
It's, moving along.
that's good.
Yep.
So, moving along, we are going to move along to our blowing a gasket segment because Mal, it's under pressure. The head's about to blow off the engine. That'll
High
own the gasket.
compression.
Yeah. So, Mel-
low torque settings on the head bolts.
What's grinding your gears? What's making you blow a gasket?
Well, I thought this was going to be the biggest humdinger of a gasket blow
Mm-hmm.
ever.
Yep.
But I was wrong.
Okay.
Well, not entirely wrong, but I was mostly wrong. Anyway, so if you've seen the trailer for the new Bumblebee movie, the new Transformers movie, you may feel like, now based on the footage in the trailer, it may look to you, and it did to me, like the Bumblebee as a car was made from a later Beetle than Bumblebee the robot.
Righto. So when Bumblebee's trucking around wherever,
Yep.
Nowhere Land, California, or whatever the scene is in the film,
Yep.
it's a late Beetle.
Later Beetle, not a new Beetle, not a water-cooled one, but
Yep.
the ones with the upright headlights. So
Right.
later on. Anyway, however, I was wrong.
Ah.
It is because Bumblebee is based on a 1967 US market Beetle,
Yep.
which had the upright exposed seal beam headlights before anything else that got updated.
This is champagne nerdiness.
This is the most Mal I've ever seen you, Mal.
I promise an actual Beetle head would probably do a lot worse.
Uh-huh.
But so it still gets the.
I liked Ringo.
Yeah.
You like Ringo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Beatles.
I'm more a John guy.
Yeah.
I'm a John.
What about poor old George?
Yeah. No, he's the quiet one. You
Anyway.
know what they say about the quiet ones?
They're quiet.
Good bloke.
Not much. Anyway, I was wrong.
So
Anyway.
what was it that caused you to think that the one in that's driving
headlights.
around was different to the one that becomes the...
It's the angles they show in the trailer.
Ah, okay.
And when he's a robot, you can't see the bumper.
Yep.
And anyway, a few other details.
So let us know if anyone out there, a Beetle head, as Mal described you, had picked the same thing and come up with the same answer.
And if I'm still wrong, let me know too.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, speaking of being wrong, cars that we've been driving this week, which of course has nothing to do with being wrong. Mal, kick us off. You've been behind a powerhouse little two-door.
Yep. I've been driving the M2 competition. That being the BMW.
Nice
That being
car.
the slightly sharpened version of the M2, which I've always been quite a fan of.
Yep.
But it's 2 or 3 years on since the M2 first arrived. This one's got the extra turbo of the M3 and M4. It's got the beautiful serpent-like carbon fibre underbonnet brace.
Yep.
Sharpened suspension. It's got, play-free ball joints, for example, and a few other little things. But I must say, it feels sharper. It feels more exciting. But I think it could do with a weight loss program.
Really?
Yeah.
And where does that manifest itself? Where do you feel as though it's feeling heavy?
It just feels a bit bulky.
Because it's quick.
It is
the car
very
is fast in a straight line.
Very quick and very capable on the limit. But compared to similarly sized hot hatches, it feels a lot heavier.
Yeah, fine. It's almost a handicap that a lot of BMW M cars have been coming up against. They've got heavier and bigger, and that's inevitable as you move through time with safety and all that stuff playing its part.
Yep.
But they're just not as involving, not quite as engaging.
But the M4 is only 50 kilos heavier because it gets the carbon roof and a bit more aluminium, etc. And look, ultimately that 2 Series Coupe is a bit older and probably has more normal steel in it than most.
Yep.
It's still an outstanding car, but it could do with losing.
But getting the
at
2
least 50
turbos,
kilos.
I mean, that's a pretty nice package.
Yeah. I mean, 2's generally better than 1, and plenty of poke.
Yep.
But yeah.
Now,
Feels
all
a bit
right.
heavy.
And Richard, you've been in another German performance type vehicle. What's going on there?
E53.
Right.
Mercedes-AMG E53.
Coupe.
Yep. In a beautiful burgundy red. It's a weapon.
So all-wheel drive, the new straight 6.
That's right. Straight 6, 3-litre straight 6 with a turbo and the EQ boost electric trickery. Not trickery, but it's their
Mild hybrid.
mild hybrid, they're calling it. It's not an electric motor.
So
More of a starter.
2 turbos or 1?
I think it's got 1 and then a compressor turbo, which is run by the EQ boost system.
Okay.
All up it produces, I think it's, what is it? It's about 100 and, oh goodness, I've got it here. All up, you're looking at around about 400 kilowatts with the power that the EQ boost system adds to it as well.
Really?
That's
That's epic for not
Yeah.
quite a full AMG, but still
a lot
an
of power.
AMG.
Absolutely, because it's not a 63, in terms of their twin-turbo V8s or their bi-turbo V8s. It's sort of a rung below this, but my goodness, it is quick.
Language, Richard.
It is.
Goodness gracious.
My goodness.
Golly.
We can bleep that out.
Yeah. Got that, Marsden?
It's super quick, and the sound is... it is...
Straight 60?
Yeah, it's straight 60, but
Right.
it's so high-pitched. It's...
Were you just speaking with a Kiwi accent?
Yeah.
As usual.
It's
Push and
totally
chops.
60. Yeah.
It's very, it's loud. There's
Wow.
crackle and pops, Volkswagen, Golf R style. And then there's this, which sounds like you're driving through a neighborhood where people are shooting at you. I mean,
Wow.
I live,
From a straight 6?
yeah.
Wow.
Now I live close to those neighborhoods where people do shoot at you, but this wasn't live fire.
You're the one doing the shooting.
That's normally me.
So you're on the wrong side of the tracks.
I'm actually on the tracks. Our house is so close to the station that when I wake up in the morning, the doors open up and I see Marsden, our producer, on the platform.
I was visualising a house train. Like one of those barges.
I'd love a house.
All right, well, I mean,
I'm a hobo that
to round that out, I've
Yep.
had the opportunity to do a quick steer of a Mercedes-AMG G63, which is the G-Class dialed up to the maximum in now second-generation form. So it does have the 4-litre twin-turbo V8. It's 430 kilowatts. It's 850 newton meters.
Wow.
It's that bread box style, but so many things have been improved. The steering used to be terrible, like a lagging mouse. It's gone from recirculating ball to rack and pinion. It's now got variable ratio, electric assistance rather than pure hydraulic. That's way, way better. The suspension used to be dead ordinary. They've now put a proper independent front end, double wishbones on the front, multi-link but a live fixed axle at the back. It rides way better.
It's an all-new car.
It's an all-new
Yeah.
car. It's
Richard knows it well because he was at the launch, I think,
Absolutely.
the week before.
But talk
Yeah.
about noise. I mean, there are the side pipes. No one
Yeah.
does side pipes, but they do.
Yeah.
And
2 sets of
a
sides.
colleague was exactly so twin pipes either side of the car coming out. I stood next to it. It just spits kind of exhaust
Yeah.
stuff on you.
You get
You've
a
got to
black
watch
leg.
it
Yeah.
on
It's
your
in a
leg.
cold morning.
Yeah.
It's fabulous fun. So fun. I mean, to make its CD figure is 0.55. Now, I googled it, and a brick is generally about 2.
Yeah.
All right, so it's
It's not bad.
it's not
for
as bad as a
brick.
brick, but
That's
it's pretty. It's a bluff, squared up thing. It can go 0 to 100 4.5 seconds.
And it's like, now, is it true
Brick's a
that
bit
its
longer.
top speed is not limited by its grunt? It's actually by wind
Still
resistance.
electronically. Look, it's electronically limited to 220.
Yep.
If you get a performance pack,
Yeah.
you can go up to 240.
Yep.
So it will actually push enough air away to go 240 kilometres an hour.
But however, unlike every other AMG that's limited to 250.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, but look, it's just hilarious. It's so much fun. It's got a new 9-speed dual clutch, and it's got a multiple change function, so that if you hold onto the paddle as you're slowing down,
It does
it'll
two
just
in one go.
continually
Yeah.
Change down gears, which is great fun.
Imagine the pressure on that flat glass windscreen at
Yeah.
240 k's
Yeah,
an
yeah,
hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
So that's been heaps of fun. And that rolls us straight into another heaps of fun, which is MuskWatch. All right, so the big news in Elon World, which is a theme park coming
Elon
soon.
World.
Elon World
Yeah.
is
Would it open?
Yeah, good
Yeah.
point. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, there'd be a queue to get in.
Yeah.
a
Well,
dem-
the brochure would be impressive.
Would be very impressive.
The Boring Company, one of Elon's other exploits, along with SpaceX and Tesla, has opened up a demo run of a tunnel to demonstrate how his new technology for reinventing the train will actually play out. So what's happened is he's built a just under 1 kilometre long section of tunnel that's big enough to hold a Model X with expanding kind of horizontal track wheels, so that you ride it up onto this kind of guideway that's 2 concrete kind of not rails, but what amounts to rails, and the guide wheels at the front keep the car on track, which to me immediately said it was exactly the same as the Oban bus system that was installed in Adelaide. So that technology is not new.
Yeah.
But the car will go reasonably fast. He reckons ultimately it'll be going up to, 150 kilometres an hour or so. This was going about 80 kilometres an hour. And it was a media call, so there were lots of people having a passenger ride along this little test loop. It was bouncy as all get out. All they said was, look, it's really uncomfortable. They said, and Elon's response was, no, we will smooth that out. It'll be smooth as glass,
Teething
etc.
problems.
So, teething problems. But CNBC claims that it cost $10 million, which sounds like a lowball figure to me, to set up this test run.
1 kilometre of tunnel.
1 kilometre of
It's a
tunnel.
long tunnel.
And it came out of, they allege, Elon's own pocket. So it wasn't a Boring Company thing. It was just, we've got to get something going so that people buy into this whole technology. But to me, it's only big enough to hold one car.
Yep.
I'm thinking breakdowns. I'm thinking you're just transferring choked roads, say from LA, to an underground tunnel. If you get enough cars in there, maybe it's measured. I just see a lot of issues in terms of working out those
idea that you can
details.
drive your Model X onto the rails?
Yeah.
So what I understand is, I've been following this. It's really interesting, but it's got obvious flaws. So you drive your Model X to a station. You go down in a lift. Your car hooks up to the track, and then it takes you on the track. So it's like a private train. Now the problem with that is, as there've been a few European presidents who have written to Elon and said, look, our train systems carry this many passengers per day. For your system to work here, we would require a car every 2 seconds.
Precisely.
We already do this with subway systems.
Yes.
Not with car systems.
Yeah.
And each of those cars would have its own motor and...
That's it.
you know,
exactly.
force
That's
its
it.
wheels.
Exactly.
That's it.
I think it's fraught with the possibilities of disaster. That
Oh, yeah.
all it takes is one car to have a malfunction.
You know what?
And
This is just as out there and the equivalent of amphibious cars, if you think about it.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
sure.
Car driving on water.
We
car
have boats.
driving on trains.
Yeah, we have boats to do that. We have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost as crazy as wanting to go and live on Mars. Oh, hold on.
Actually, I think living on Mars is less crazy than building roads underneath the
Any
Earth.
submarines in this tunnel?
No, not so far. No
Okay,
kids caught
okay.
either. So The other news this week is that a firmware update has happened for Tesla cars, and the latest little Easter egg is 3 different modes on your central screen. One is romance mode.
Oh, what?
Which is a roaring fire with Marvin Gaye soundtrack in the background, so you can have that on your screen. Next is pole position, which is like
Endura doesn't do that.
An Atari-style 8-bit game
Yeah.
with a Tesla on Mars, and you actually can only play it when you're stationary, quite obviously, but you play it with the car's wheel. So there's this 8-bit game. That sounds cool.
My son would love that.
And there's an emissions testing mode, so-called, which is actually multiple fart sounds. So
There's
with
stab
I
at
do
it,
like the
certain
sense of
German
humour.
brands.
with the wheel
I
click
like
or
that.
the
Yeah.
indicator turn, you can make those noises. So I thought that's kind of funny. That's really funny. Now, what are we at to? Tesla's stock dipped about
It's really too small,
11%.
Richard.
It dipped about 11% over the last week. I'm not exactly sure why, but you can see it. It comes right off a cliff. And
That's
the
a lot of
Bloomberg
percents.
Model 3 production tracker, we're at 4194. That's down 112 on last week, and it's now the 17th week in a row under 5,000. But as we said last week, maybe 4,000 or thereabouts is enough.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of critical mass in terms of the production. But we'll see
Maybe-
what happens in the new
Maybe
year.
if the target wasn't 7,000, they wouldn't be at 4,000. If you made it 4,000,
Precisely.
they'd be at 2,000.
It's the dog jumping this high and being able to jump
That's
that
it.
high. Yeah, I suppose so. But we'll see what transpires. I think the bold prediction from early in the year of 6,000 a week by the end of the year, it's easy to call. Not going to get there.
So we next sit down on January 4, I believe.
Yep.
We'll know the truth
We'll
then.
see what happens. So, look, with that, I think we have reached the finish line. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mal.
Thank you, James.
And thanks to our
Richard.
producer, Marsden. If confusion was a crime, he'd get life without parole. And thank you for listening. Please get in touch and make this a two-way conversation. To have your say, good or bad, search for Cars Guide on Facebook and Instagram and use the tag @CGPodcast or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. We've had a decent number of ratings on iTunes now, and we're still at 4.5 stars. I don't know what's up with that. You know, we're at 4.5 out of 5. I mean, that's great, but I'm surprised.
How many people
I
have
thought we were
rated
And
it?
and reviews. Okay, so Milkman on iTunes has said FFS. Can
Oh,
you all talk?
fantastic
Can you
fellas,
all talk
success.
at a similar volume?
Oh.
Because surely in 2018 there's some program that can level the deafening highs and whispering lows out. But he still gave us thumbs up and 4 stars.
Oh, thanks.
So that's very nice. But then the fat man says,
Hang
love,
on, is
love.
he,
Look,
is
he
is that
loves.
his name, or is
yeah,
he calling him fat?
The fat man. He is
Is that the
his
guy
name.
from Jake and the Fat Man?
His iTunes handle is
Cool.
The Fat Man Says.
Oh.
And look, he loves MuskWatch, but thinks the Winton joke, so-called, has gone on far too long. 4 stars, 5 if Frosty wasn't in the picture.
Oh, jeez.
Okay,
Frosty.
look, all we can say is thanks for the feedback, big fella, and stay tuned for a fresh approach in 2019.
We're
And
going to send it straight back to the
it's wrapped
creative team
around
at
Frosty
Winton.
Berry. That's possibly bringing all
That
things
look,
to a
Frosty
close.
Berry could just end it all for me. Like after that, I don't think it's the relationship's salvageable.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Look,
Well-
this is the last Tools in the Shed podcast for 2018, and we'll be back and fresh with shiny faces, in my case, shiny head, in early January. And until then, stay safe over the holiday period, and remember, never drive faster than your guardian angel can fly. See you next year.